This video is going to discuss Article 248 of the Revised Penal Code, and that is your murder. Nasa Crimes Against Persons pa rin tayo, that is your Title 8 ng Book 2 ng RPC. But please take note that this is only the Part 1 of our discussion about Article 248. Mahaba ang discussion natin sa Article 248 because this is a favorite bar topic. History ang bar exams kung walang tanong tungkol sa murder. Kaya, since favorite topic ito, dapat aralin na natin ng mabuti kasi sure naman na may lalabas na tanong, lalo na sa bar exams, about Article 248. So let's begin our discussion through this 1999 number 5 bar exam question. Define murder. So napakasimple ng tanong. In your mind, you know how to answer this question, but believe me guys ha, especially if you are taking the bar exams, ito yung mga tanong na nakakapag-mental block, especially kung ngayon ay computerized na, baka panay ang delete nyo, panay ang backspace nyo. And if you are going to answer this question based on Article 248, ang haba, napakahaba, baka hindi enough ang time mo sa criminal law, hindi mo matapos ang criminal law. And take note ha, that is only 3%. Kaya what is my tip? As early as now, mag-strategize ka na habang nasa review pa lang. Strategize mo na if you will be confronted with questions like this, yung definition or enumeration, dapat alam mo na kung paano mo siya sasagutin. And if you read the book of Buwado, ano ang definition niya sa murder? Napakasimple lang. It's only a one sentence but it is correct. It is the killing of another person attended by a qualifying circumstance. Or to simply put it, it is homicide plus one qualifying circumstance. Kung nabitin ka, pwede mong dagdagan. An example of a qualifying circumstance is treachery or evident premeditation. Can you be given a 3% for that? Yes, because your answer is complete. There is unlawful killing of another person and there is the word qualifying circumstance. The enumeration from number 1 to 6 are your qualifying circumstances. And if you're going to compare this to your Article 14 of the Revised Penal Code, more or less, they are the same. But please take note that in Article 14, meron doon nakasulat na banned as one of the aggravating circumstances. But if you will go to your Article 248, banned is not included. But can a person be convicted of murder because of that aggravating circumstance of banned? Answer is yes. It is still murder because of the circumstances with the aid of armed men as stated in number 1. Next, how about dwelling? Can you see that in your Article 248? No, it is not included. How about nighttime? Is it included in Article 248? Answer is also no. Dwelling and nighttime or your nocturnity are not included in the enumeration of qualifying circumstances under Article 248. But take note that nighttime can be a method or form of treachery. But even if there is nighttime, in such a case, it is the treachery, not nighttime, that is qualifying. We go to number 6. So number 6, you will read there the outraging or scoffing at his person or corpse. And take note that qualifying circumstance is hindi yan kasama sa Article 14. Hindi yan nakasulat sa Article 14. So another bar exam question, what are the elements of the crime of murder? Answer is number 1, a person was unlawfully killed. Number 2, such a killing was attended by any of the above-mentioned circumstances. So ito yung qualifying circumstances. Number 3, the killing is not parricide. Bakit? Sa parricide, what is important is the relationship. What is the relationship nung pumatay sa kanyang napatay? and the killing is not also infanticide. Sa infanticide naman, the question that you should ask yourself is, how old was the victim or how old was yung napatay? The victim must not be less than 3 days old or 72 hours. And number 4, the accused killed the victim. And speaking of qualifying circumstances, ano ang mga dapat tandaan? First is, it changes the nature of the crime and the designation of the offense. So kung dapat homicide lang but because of the presence of qualifying circumstance, then it becomes murder. And what will happen next? It will resultantly increase the penalty to a higher degree. Next, the qualifying circumstance must be alleged in the information. Otherwise, it will not be considered because that will violate the constitutional right of the accused. Ano yung nava-violate na constitutional right of the accused? That is the right of the accused to be informed of the nature of the accusation against him. Number 3, that qualifying circumstance must be proved as conclusively as the guilt of the offender because that qualifying circumstance is an element of the offense. Number 4, the qualifying circumstance cannot be offset by any mitigating circumstance. So let's go now to the rules. Rules for the application of the circumstances which qualify the killing to murder. So first, only one qualifying circumstance is necessary to qualify the offense as murder. So, only one, isa lang. What if maraming qualifying circumstances? What will happen? In that case, if there is more than one qualifying circumstance present, then the rest shall be considered as generic aggravating circumstance. Second, when the other circumstances are absorbed or included in one qualifying circumstance, then they can no longer be considered as generic aggravating circumstances. Last, binasa na natin to. Any of the qualifying circumstances must be alleged in the information. 1991 bar exam question. In an information for murder against A, B, and C, the prosecution alleges treachery as the qualifying circumstance. The prosecution likewise alleged that the generic aggravating circumstances of nocturnity, abuse of superior strength, and employing means to weaken the defense. But during the trial, the prosecution was able to prove evident premeditation. Take note ha that yung evident premeditation was not included or was not alleged in the information. The prosecution was also able to prove successfully the qualifying and the generic aggravating circumstances. So question letter B. Supposing that treachery was not proved, can you now consider the evident premeditation which was duly proved during the trial as the qualifying circumstance? Answer is no. Bakit? Because it was not alleged in the information. What did we say? Your qualifying circumstance must be alleged in the information. Ano ang mangyayari kung hindi siya naka-allege in the information? It cannot be considered because that will violate the constitutional right of the accused. What constitutional right is violated? The right of the accused to be informed of the nature of the accusation against him. So what will happen to the evident premeditation? Although it was not alleged in the information, but it was duly proved during the trial, that will be considered as generic aggravating circumstances. Letter C. If the prosecution failed to prove treachery and did not offer evidence, any evidence that would prove also evident premeditation, does acquittal of the accused follow? Answer is no. But the liability will only be for homicide as there is no circumstances to qualify it to murder. Another bar exam question. A here is prosecuted for homicide under proper information. At the time of the trial, it was established that the crime was committed with treachery, premeditation at nighttime, and with abuse of superior strength. If you were the judge, what crime should you convict A of? Answer is still homicide. Bakit? Because Treachery, premeditation, nighttime, abuse of superior strength do not appear to be alleged in the information. Ano ang sabi natin? They must be alleged in the information because that will violate the constitutional right of the accused. But what will happen to these circumstances that we just mentioned? They will be considered only as generic aggravating circumstances. But take note that only treachery and evident premeditation will be considered as your generic aggravating circumstances. Bakit? Because you go back to your rule number 2. Ano ang sinasabi ng rule number 2? When the other circumstances are absorbed or included in one qualifying circumstance, then they cannot be considered anymore as generic aggravating circumstance. Since treachery absorbs nighttime and abuse of superior strength, therefore, nighttime and abuse of superior strength can no longer be considered as generic aggravating circumstance. Another bar exam question. This was asked in year 2000. Ang facts dito is more or less the same lang dun sa sinabi na natin kanina, yung nabanggit na natin kanina. So, Rico here was killed by Pocholo. Pocholo was prosecuted for homicide. But during the trial, the prosecution was able to prove that the killing was committed by means of poison in consideration of a promise or reward and with cruelty. So if you were the judge, with what crime will you convict Pocholo? Answer is still homicide. Homicide pa rin. Bakit? Because even if there are qualifying circumstances or circumstances that would qualify the crime to murder, but since they were not alleged in the information, therefore they cannot be considered. Ano ang sabi natin? Number 1 rule, qualifying circumstances must be alleged in the information. Bakit? Kung hindi na-alleged sa information, it will violate the constitutional right of the accused. But what will happen to these circumstances? Kahit hindi na-alleged in the information, but the prosecution was able to prove them during the trial. Ano ang sabi? They will be appreciated as generic aggravating circumstances. They will be appreciated as generic aggravating circumstances. So again take note, sa qualifying circumstances, number 1 rule, they must be alleged in the information and, take note, it is and proven beyond reasonable doubt during the trial to be appreciated as such.